I broke my back.
What do you mean by that?
My back is broken.
What do you mean, calm it down? It's a fight. Referees telling two fighters who want to fight to calm it down. He should calm down.
I saw he's like a clown in his show, man. He's not your guy.
Because Tyson Fury's back, and all you motherfuckers are under attack.
Look, Eddie Hearn can say all what he likes. Who gives a shit what Eddie Hearn says? It's garbage.
Are you off your tits? Have you been smoking something?
Can you let me retire and be happy? Please, just please.
Bombs away from the Bronx Bomber!
Wanda! Let's go, baby! Let's go!
I'm through. They put somebody else up and give me an interview.
What are you talking about? What are you talking about?
You never give me a fair shake. HBO needs to fire you. You don't know shit about boxing. You ain't shit. You're not shit.
I wish I was 50 years younger and I'd kick your ass.
I got dropped, man. Are you kidding?
No, you won the fight.
OMG. I am so excited.
Yes. What is up, MCR family? Another semi-daily edition of the show, live on YouTube, obviously podcast form, iTunes, Spotify, our radio, etc. Podcast will be back up tomorrow, so that'd be fun. I should be on another show tomorrow. I forget what show I'm going to be on, guest appearing on, talking about the UFC card. But digressing, a lot of boxing to get to. Showtime-PBC's schedule was unveiled, and it's a lot of talking points, Gary, right? Like, there's a lot to dissect and to discuss with this very expansive schedule that I'm really excited to talk about, surprisingly. Showtime schedule. Who thought we'd be excited about Showtime schedule and boxing in 2020? No one thought that at the beginning of the year. A lot to get into. Canelo, Alvarez, Triple G deal again for the Trilogy fight. I'm really sick of these deals that Mike Coventry keeps reporting that aren't actually deals, but we're going to get into that. Devin Haney saying that he's going to fight Gamboa. I hope he's trolling. Dan O'Kinahan back in the news. Shout out to Dan O'Kinahan. A lot to get into on today's show, guys. I'm joined, as usual, on these shows by the one and only Gary in Dallas. Gary, how are you, man?
I'm really good. Like, I finally feel like we have a real show to do, right? Like I said yesterday's, was it yesterday the day before we did a show?
Monday. It was Monday.
I said, like, I felt like we did we just rolled the dice, like we just went for with a 2 and a 7 in our hands. This time I feel like we got pocket aces, or at least like pocket 10s or something, like something good. You know, like this is a good show. Like this is a show like we used to do, where there's like real topics to talk about, not trying to make $1 out of 15 cents. And like we were saying, like boxing is back with the top ranked cards, and it's really not, right? Like I shared a post in our group chat that said professional sports coming to Fort Worth, Texas. Professional lacrosse. It's like saying boxing is back is saying like professional sports is coming back to Fort Worth when it's lacrosse. It's like,
yes,
that doesn't count.
No, it
professional lacrosse, that's a thing. Have you ever met anyone in your whole life who played or watched lacrosse?
Yes. So remember, I went to private Christian schools up until college. So lacrosse is far more of like a private school sport, right?
You're right. I went to a private university and they had a good lacrosse team. But
like you're gonna see like those lacrosse teams at like the Ivy League schools and shit. Obviously just private schools. But that's about it. It's like for rich white dudes that can't play other sports.
Other sports, right? Yeah.
Or they want to play hockey, but they just can't be on skates. Like that.
I had a friend when I was at Hipster, which is in Long Island. That's where I went to college. Who was like all American in lacrosse, but the entire team was from Long Island. They were all like from the same county in Long Island. It's like so you're all American in a sport that's only played in Long Island. So really, you're all Long Island, which is good. But I mean, okay, like you know what I'm saying? Like,
Rob is adding lacrosse is for rich meatheads. Yeah, I would probably agree with that to a degree.
Who can't play other sports? Preface it with that, right? Because
you
could have a rich meathead who like Bill Lane Beer, who could play another sport. Right? If you can't play another sport, it's lacrosse.
But guys, we got some boxing to get to, surprisingly. So, Gary, you want to talk about the schedule? Because I mean, oh, this is good. This is really fucking good. I'm gonna run down through it, and we're obviously gonna dissect individual parts of it and aspects of it. But let me just run down the list. Okay, so August 1st is the first Showtime PBC card. Stephen Fulton fighting Angelo Leo. We already knew about that one, so not surprised. Second one, which is honestly probably the worst main event of the bunch, I would argue, is Dave Benavidez versus Romero, Alexis Angulo on August 15th. September 19th is Erickson Lubin versus Terrell Gausha. September 26th is a double-header pay-per-view. I think we're probably going to dissect some of these pay-per-views a little bit more, obviously. The Charlo brothers are fighting Derevchenko and Jason Rosario, respectively. And then October 10th, we have Sergey Lepinets versus Kudratilo Abkadurov. I love that fight. I really, really fucking do. And Javante Davis versus Leo Santa Cruz, October 24th on pay-per-view. November 28th, Chris Colbert versus Jamie Abdella, and then December 12th, Nordine Obali versus Nonito Donaire. I'll be honest, there's one or two main events here that I don't like, or at least that I would say are not great main events, and that's about it here, Gary. And it would be Dave Benavidez and versus Ramiro Angulo, and then maybe Colbert versus Abdella, or Fulton versus Leo. Like, those would be the two fights are like not star quality, but they're decent fights. The Benavidez fight's not good at all. I will say that. Gary, your thoughts overall on the schedule? We're going to obviously dissect individual cards, but overall on the schedule, your thoughts on it?
Look, it's good. It's real boxing, and I don't have a problem with the Benavidez fight being a main event. It's Benavidez. I think it's a quality opponent. Look, obviously Benavidez is going to win. He's going to win by knockout, but I don't think it's Colbert.
No,
the Colbert fight's really the only one I kind of like. And I like Colbert too, but like the level of competition is just. Is Colbert still fighting at 130?
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, if he was his last fight was Jezreel Krause, I thought was a better opponent, right? Like,
yeah,
and that was like opened up the televised portion of the card, like, but it's Showtime. It's good. Perfect. It's real boxing, and there's some good fights in there, so it's a win for me.
Yeah, I mean, even like the cards like Erickson Lubin, Terrell Gausha, I like that fight a lot.
I like because it's a good fight. That's a good fight.
It's a fight with divisional relevance, with real stakes on the line. And Erickson Lubin has a huge comeback story here if he's able to pick this win off and then fight, maybe the Charlo Rosario winner. That's a legit outcome that could happen. And if he wins that, we're talking about Lubin as this great comeback story after that first round knockout. Sergey Lepinets, Abkadurov, I think is fantastic.
Again, a fun fight. Yeah.
Fantastic fight with huge divisional relevance. Two guys that are arguably in the top 10, 15 for sure, but arguably in the top 10. And the winner of that fight should get a title fight against one of the top guys, or at least a big fight against one of the top 5 names or 6 names. So even the fights where you would look at it and say there's not a lot there, there is a lot there. Let alone, again, Nordine Obali versus Nonito Donaire, which is a fantastic fucking fight. And even though they're pay-per-view, I do like the Charlo doubleheader a lot. I think both those fights are honestly probably the best fights of the year. And even though Javante Davis, Leo Santa Cruz, we have an issue of like what weight class is it at in terms of like what belt it's aligned with, and we're going to get into that. The issue of both guys are fighting each other when they could be fighting other people. I understand all those criticisms, but it's still on paper a really, really solid and great fight. I'm shocked that Showtime has this strength of schedule here. I do wonder if it's a little bit of Fox passing the buck a little bit in terms of responsibility for PBC's schedule right now. They don't want to deal with it potentially. We do know that Viacom has been working with Mohegan Sun, which all these cards will be at. I believe that's how it's going to be run. That's their bubble, so to speak, like Top Ranks at MGM in Las Vegas, or is it Mandalay? Is it MGM or Mandalay?
It's MGM.
MGM. So we know that Viacom maybe probably asked PBC for this type of schedule, and Fox wasn't really willing to do this and didn't have the infrastructure to make it. Viacom was making this already for all of their content at the Mohegan Sun. So we're going to see Bellator events. We're going to see obviously PBC events now at the Mohegan Sun. Gary, you want to talk a little bit about these pay-per-views? I think that's going to be the crux of, or the bulk of the conversation here when it comes to boxing and boxing Twitter. Unless you have any other thoughts on the other cards.
First, Mohegan Sun. I went there. I played in a hold-up tournament there when I used to live in New York. Best buffet in the history of buffets. Like, this is no joke. Like, it's got everything: prime rib, lobster, like the best you've ever had. Like, not like you would think of, okay, buffet. No. I mean, like gourmet, like the best buffet you've ever had. And if you're in the tournament, which I was, you can go back and forth. You get a wristband. You can eat it all day. And then they pump oxygen into the floor so you don't fall asleep because you've overeaten. But if you guys get a chance, if you live in the Northeast, the tri-state area, you should go to that place. Oh, that's a good place to eat. And gamble, too, if that's your thing.
Shout out to Santiago with the super chat saying now is when it's appropriate to say boxing is back. Such good content to look forward to, and not just searching a card for a good fight. Yeah, that's what the top rank cards were. It was searching for one fight on each of those cards that you can somehow find a redeeming quality with. Like, that was all those cards were. That's what they were. They were not good cards. They did not really have good main events. There was a couple good main events that did fall out. I'll give Top Rank that credit, but most of the cards were utter trash in terms of star power and divisional relevance. All of these fights have divisional relevance. Every single one. Even the bad fights, so to speak, like David Benavidez, obviously, he's a fucking champion. Chris Colbert is on his way to fighting for a championship very soon, in my opinion. He's a top 10 guy in the division. It's going to be interesting to see, again, how big of these events are, especially with the pandemic boost that we've been talking about with the UFC events. Do these events get that? But digressing, I'm getting a little bit ranting here. Let's talk about the pay-per-views here. The Charlo doubleheader pay-per-view. We know that Keith Idek, let me get that up really fast. Keith Idek is saying, Stephen Espinoza also said details for Jamal Charlo and Jamal Charlo pay-per-view show haven't been ironed out yet. Does know yet if Jamal Charlo Derevchenko or Jamal Charlo and Rosario will headline at night or afternoon. I'm curious about that distinction with afternoon or headline, like afternoon or night for the headline. I don't understand that terminology for it. Makes no sense to me. There were two different cards. That was just weird. But I would assume this card is finished, but they're determining what is the main event. Similar to the Fox card, where both guys had lackluster showings, right? Both guys were sort of debating what was going to be the main event to the very last minute. Gary, your thoughts on this pay-per-view? Because we were talked about it slightly in the last show, I believe, or maybe it was off air, about Charlo Derevchenko as the main event, how successful it could be. But we were largely talking about that before we found out that was going to be a doubleheader with Charlo Rosario, which we were all saying off air was the better fight, was the more intriguing fight than Charlo Derevchenko. Not that Charlo Derevchenko is not a good fight. It's a very intriguing and very good fight. Charlo Rosario, I think for us hardcores, just has a little bit more to it in some ways. But we were very pessimistic about the pay-per-view potential for Charlo Derevchenko. I think we were sort of talking about the 50,000 to 150,000 range in terms of pay-per-view buys, spitballing somewhere around there. That's what we were all thinking in terms of us as the panel. But now with Charlo Rosario, does that get a boost at all? Does it go up to 150 to 250 now is the prediction because it has a solid co-main event? Or does that not matter?
I'd say it's going to matter on what it's up against, right? I can't look. Jamal Charlo is my favorite fighter, right? And Jamal, they're both on the wall. So Jamal's over there. I can't, they're not draws. And the name of, they're both good fights. Like, from a fan's perspective, oh, those are good fights, right? You're going to find people who pick Rosario to win. You're going to find people who pick Derevchenko to win, right? So these aren't fights where it's like, okay, we know who's going to win going into the fight, even though I think Rosario is a 154-pound Buster Douglas. I think he's going to get dismantled. But we don't know that, right? Like, Rosario just beat the snot out of J-Rock, who beat the snot out of Jarrett Hurd. Like, you might have said J-Rock's on his way to, or is the best guy at 154, and then Rosario cleaned his clock. I mean, Rosario beat him way better than J-Rock even beat Hurd, right? Like, that was really impressive stuff with Rosario. And now he's going to, is he for real? Is he maybe the best guy in the weight class? Or is he going to come back down to earth and Jamel's going to outclass him? We don't know yet, right? I know you're going to have one perspective. I probably have another one.
But the
And
thing is that we're both like guessing. Like I would say, that, like we're both like flip a coin. Charlo's gonna win because he has more experience, or Rosario's gonna win because the momentum, his size, his power. Like we're kind of just gauging here and guessing here with these two. You know, with Hurd Williams, I felt like we knew what that fight was, even though it turned out to be a huge upset. We knew what that fight was on paper, and it kind of still turned out that way in some aspects. Charlo Harrison, in large aspects, turned out exactly how it was set on paper, and we knew both guys. We knew what their commodities were at in terms of abilities and technical prowess. With Rosario, we don't know. With Charlo, we don't know if he's really the guy in the division right now. So there's a lot up in the air with that fight. And plus, I mean, I don't see how this fight is not violent. You know what I mean? Like, there's some fights where you can see how it could end up being a little bit anticlimactic. I don't see how this one's anticlimactic at all.
If you had to pick one of, we're saying the Charlos are going to be both favored, at least from a betting standpoint, in both fights.
Yeah.
If you had to pick one upset, which one would you say is more?
It would be Rosario.
I would say I think Derevchenko's got a real shot.
He does. Like, don't get. That's why I prefaced with bring up this doubleheader as saying Charlo Rosario is clearly the better fight, but it's not to disparage Charlo Derevchenko, because Derevchenko just went life and death with Triple G, and most people thought he beat Triple G. That's a huge feather in a lot of people's mental cap, so to speak, right? Like, we all think that Derevchenko beat the second best guy in the division at the time. But I do think that some of that is played into Jamal Charlo looking a little bit lackluster lately, and that being more of a sign of his competition level than him being that bad.
Again, I thought he looked really bad against Cannon Adams and Korobov, right? And then he fought Hulk Hogan in December, and it's Hulk Hogan, so put that, keep that in mind. But I thought he looked like Jamal Charlo was supposed to look. And again, the competition is not good, right? It's probably he's probably better than and he's not better than Korobov, but Hulk Hogan's probably better than Brendan Adams, right? Yeah.
But I mean, Hulk Hogan.
Look how much better he looked against Hogan. He tried to get rid of Brendan Adams in Houston, right? He couldn't do it. Like, that was a bad. I thought the Brendan Adams fight, even though he won 9-10 rounds, whatever, like, was a worse performance in the Korobov fight, because Korobov's at least a tricky southpaw, right? Brendan Adams, come on, dude, you gotta blow Brendan Adams out a couple rounds. You gotta do what Canelo did to Fielding. If you want to be in that level, if you want to be considered the best in the weight class, get rid of Brendan Adams the way that Canelo got rid of Rocky Fielding. Just get him out of there. And he couldn't do it. He dismantled. He took Hulk Hogan apart. I mean, he blew Hulk Hogan out.
Yeah.
In front of 300,000 viewers.
Moving a little bit off that, but still on the Charlo, obviously, pay-per-view. Scott Brown saying Charlo's Tank versus Leo Santa Cruz, or Loma versus Teofimo Lopez, who sells most pay-per-view. I will add, when we're going to talk about all of these pay-per-views, it's going to be very hard to talk about Spence Garcia, which is not official, and Loma Teofimo Lopez, which is not official, and Fury versus Wilder 3, which is not official. Those are 3 pay-per-views that we could stack on with these other 2 and have 5 pay-per-views to close out this year. I am praying to God that does not happen. Because if we get a pay-per-view or maybe 2 pay-per-views a month towards the end of the year, that's not good for any of our wallets during these times. And plus, I think that is hurting the market and hurting the industry in some way, stacking that many pay-per-views on top of each other. I also think that some of those are going to drop off. Like, I think Teofimo Lopez, Loma, that happens first quarter next year. I think Wilder Fury 3 happens first quarter next year. So hopefully that happens to a degree to where we don't have this real huge conflict of just expenses as a consumer. But I will sort of digress from that. Charlo's doubleheader, in terms of how big it is compared to those, I think Tank versus Leo is the bigger pay-per-view. It should be the bigger pay-per-view on paper. So should Loma versus Teofimo Lopez. If I had to bet which one of those 3 would be the highest selling pay-per-view of the bunch, or it'd probably be Tank versus Leo Santa Cruz.
That's what I was going to say, too. Just by a little bit over the Loma fight.
Like, I would predict that one to kind of hit a 300,000 mark, at least.
Because Tank's got a big following, like you can see on the East Coast, and Santa Cruz is a draw. I mean, with the Mexican community and the West Coast, like, those are the 2, and that fight together is going to be fun,
Yeah.
And you're taking Santa Cruz, right? in that fight. I keep going back and forth. I'm just going to take the opposite of who you pick because I think it's 50-50. So just to make it interesting.
What about Rob? What about Rob? Why me?
Oh, okay. I mean,
you didn't think about that? Why you want to debate me? Debating Rob is so much more fun because he gets mad. In the chat, like commenting now, like I'm not mad. You're mad. You hate boxing.
What I think they should have done, what ESPN should have done, is make those 2 pay-per-views 1 pay-per-view, right? And then just have the other, have the Jamal card and the Tank be on the Tank Davis card, right? So that's 1 pay-per-view.
You mean Showtime, not ESPN, right?
I mean Showtime. Have Jamal Charlo and Tank Davis on the same card, right? Those are your 2 fights, and then just have Jamel headline a regular Showtime card. You know what I'm saying? So Jamel gets to play the headline against Rosario on a separate Showtime card, and then the other one has the Tank Davis fight, which should do well. And if you're on the, kind of on the verge of buying it or not, you have Jamal Charlo in the co-main against in a high action fight.
If we're being honest here, of the 4, because I'm going to include Spence Garcia in this discussion briefly. In the 3, because I keep wanting to include the Charlos as separate pay-per-views for some reason in my mind. They're on the same card. The 3 pay-per-view cards. Only one of them is, in my opinion, truly pay-per-view worthy in the sense that, like, I am totally okay spending money on Spence Garcia. That's not an issue with me at all. I have some reservations about spending money on Gervonta Davis, period, let alone Gervonta Davis versus Leo Santa Cruz at 130 for 2 different belts in 2 different divisions. That's just weird. And again, I think the Charlos are best served on Fox right now. I don't think they're pay-per-view commodities. I mean, again, we're talking about Charlo Derevchenko. If it was a sole headliner doing 50,000 pay-per-view buys, that's a huge bomb.
Remember,
if we're being completely honest here, and like this is my one criticism of this schedule is that these 2 pay-per-views should be on free TV. Like Gervonta Davis, Leo Santa Cruz on Fox would do massive numbers right now. Charlo Derevchenko and Charlo Rosario separately combined, doesn't matter, does great numbers on Fox right now. So that's my one issue with it. And plus, again, in a market or industry or economy right now where how many millions of people have lost their jobs and healthcare, stacking pay-per-views and pay-per-views on top of each other, just I don't like it. I don't like the UFC doing it, to be honest. The one reason why I end up buying them, A, because it's a tax write-off, and B, they stack their cards. So that's why I'm a little bit more in favor of the Charlo doubleheader pay-per-view, or not in favor of it, more accepting of it, because at least they stacked it. But again, these pay-per-views should be Fox main events. These would do massive numbers. We know that. These would be the first cards to do a 5 million again for PBC. Honestly, in terms of viewership, we haven't seen that since Thurman Garcia. Charlo Derevchenko in September, and with hopefully no other big sports around it, it kills the market. Like it destroys. It does 5, 6, 7, 8 million on Fox. I believe that, but instead they're going to try to get 250,000 pay-per-view buys, 300,000 pay-per-view buys.
They're looking at what the UFC did, and then they're going to get a astronomically high number because UFC has they think they're going to get 500,000 on these, which they're not. But I want to point that out. Jamal Charlo's last fight against Hulk Hogan was on Showtime, had 300,000 viewers, period. Not pay-per-view buys, just that watch the fight. Now you think you're going to get that many people to pay $70 to watch it during a pandemic? I just got a $700 pair of shoes for $300. You know why? Because people are broke. You know what I'm saying? It's a buyer's market right now, right? Like, if I were Showtime, what I would do was say it's $70 pay-per-view, or buy 2 get 1 free, 150. All 3 of them you get for $150, or give you some kind of incentive to buy all of them, right? Because look, some people might buy 1, some people might buy the second, and some people might buy the third. The people who are gonna buy all 3, or even 2 of them, is really limited. I get that you think people are thirsty for sports, but people are also thirsty for money, right? Keep that in mind. This isn't, the .com era where everyone's okay, throw money around. Look at the unemployment numbers.
Yeah, and
Not a great time to be doing this.
no. Again, I think all the fights are honestly really good fights, at the very least, if not great fights. I even think the Charlo doubleheader is a really good card. I just think that's a little bit tone deaf in this market. I get why they're doing it in terms of, like, from a financial perspective, like they need to recoup some of these losses in terms of the gate. But what I would have done is not make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 separate cards. I would have done 4, Gary, and I would have made them 4 fight cards. So you're not expending a bunch on fighter pay, and you're combining some of these cards. That's what I would have done. I would have cut corners a lot in terms of card depth, the amount of cards. That's what I would be doing. I will give credit to Showtime that they're trying to come back in like nothing went away, because that's what it looks like, right? Like it's a normal schedule. Not only that, it's almost like a 2018 Showtime schedule, right? Like it's a really solid schedule here. I think, again, that is a little bit, again, stretching yourself too thin. The second some of these guys start getting COVID or start getting injured, which we've been seeing with the top rank cards, hopefully that doesn't happen here. It just, again, interesting to see how these cards got put together, and on top of that, how these cards are going to stay together as well. I'm just looking at the chat right now.
Oh, real quick, both those stocks that I gave to Rob, I sold today. They're both up over 25% in 2 months. Keep that in mind.
Well, I mean, the stock market's doing really good right now.
It's I'm old enough to remember when the stock market used to reflect the economy. It's back to 20. It hit 20. Did it close at 27,000? Yeah, it closed over 27,000. So it's down less than 10% off its high.
I think it's
Okay.
How many billions have been made or accumulated by other billionaires? It's like 6.
Bezos had a $13 billion day. A $13 billion day.
B with
billion with a B. Yeah, he had a $13 billion day.
And in one day.
What is that by the how many? He used to say, I make 30 million for 48 minutes. Well, divide that and make that. Someone do the math on that. How much did he make per minute on a $13 billion day?
And again, was like 30 million people are unemployed now. I forget the number. It's a lot. It's tens of millions of people. Meanwhile, it's 500 pay-per-views, guys. Thank God the tax write-off.
Bezos should have a big watch party for all of his employees at Amazon. And
honestly, all of our listeners, like, this is a genuine question here. Like, do you guys buy all these like pay-per-views? Like for Dwayne, Jeff, Hassan, Scott, all of you guys, Team Batman. I know some of you guys in the UK, so maybe it's not as applicable. But maybe make it for a UK comparison, right? If the UK come out here and you had 4 or 5 UK pay-per-views in 4 or 5 months in a row during this time, would you be buying them all? Like, how many would you buy? Oh, Gary just dropped out. Gary, you're back.
Am I back?
You're back, kind of.
That was really strange. You dropped off first for me, and then I was gone.
It's just you.
And then you came back, and then I was gone. Yeah.
I
hope PSK is in the chat.
Are you hardwired in?
I am Ethernet up. I just checked to make sure I was still running on the Ethernet, and indeed it is. I hope PSK is in the chat so you can save the day again.
PSK is in the chat.
All right.
I want to ask, because Gary, I know you keep up to date on mainstream sports more than I do. Will these pay-per-views, September 26th and October 24th, potentially run in conflict with mainstream sports back into it, with NFL, NBA, those types of sports?
Absolutely.
October 1 for sure.
October for sure, right?
September's a little bit, maybe.
September's going to run up against basketball, right? Because basketball starts again in July, and then the playoffs will be in August and September. So it could be up against the NBA Finals, which would be that would be a home run for boxing.
But I think about like that. Somebody asked in the chat, like, what would be competing against? Because I remember you mentioned very, very early in this conversation about it. If it doesn't compete with anything, it could be quite successful. I think you're right that if it doesn't compete with anything on Saturday, September 26th, and we have this pandemic boost that we've been seeing, I do think we could see this do over the estimate that we are thinking. Like it can do 300,000 plus. Like that's possible, right? Not saying that it's going to do 500,000 plus. I think that's a little bit ridiculous. That's too much of a boost that we're giving it. But a respectable number, yes. But if it's running up against anything, MLB playoffs, NBA playoffs, anything like that, it's in massive trouble. Because the second those sports are back up, can you imagine the viewership numbers for some of those first games, Gary? They're going to be insane. They just are.
They are. All right, and baseball starts the Yankees kick the season off tomorrow night, and then everyone else plays on Friday.
Is it for sure happening though this time? Because remember, like last
ESPN already has it like on there, like as a little ad for it. So I mean,
who knows? Would you buy? I know your money bags. Like maybe it's a little bit different.
Money bags.
You're comparative to me. Your money bags. Are you buying both pay-per-views, Charlo and the Devontae Davis one?
Yeah.
I mean, you honestly, Gary, you can do a tax write-off right now.
All right. Yeah.
Just 1099 now. I'll send you a 1099. Don't worry about it. Spence Garcia, let's say that gets added as a Fox pay-per-view. You buying all three?
I'll buy all 5 of them, I guess. Like, that's so much money. Like, let's say there's $70 a pop, and you know Fury Wild is going to be 100 or 80, right? It's going to be more.
25 at least.
We're talking about almost $400 in pay-per-views for boxing in a couple of months. Like, it's too much. Like, I mean, it's too much. It's too much.
Scott Brown saying Charlo pay-per-view is going to do better than Triple G and Lemieux. LOL. I don't know if it will, but if it does, Charlo has a lot to bargain with and negotiate with and leverage when it comes to a Canelo fight.
But
even if it does 150, 200,000, like even if it does like that, like a Andre Ward Kovalev number, that's still leverage because look at what Triple G did with those numbers and then did with Canelo. Charlo can argue that in the negotiation room. That look, I may not do your numbers, but I'm a great B side for you. So guess what? We're going to do a DAZN pay-per-view because Eddie keeps wanting to do one. And we know Oscar's going to be okay with it. That's how you're going to recoup your loss if you're DAZN because you're not making money and you're not giving your license fees out. It's like Gary froze up there. Gary, refresh yourself, man. Like, what are you doing? God, just sad, guys. You know, amateur hour over here. What was I saying? But again, Charlo, if he does even remotely successful here, he has a lot to leverage and a lot of bargaining power when it comes to a Canelo fight. More than I think people realize. Because he can, sell himself as a Triple G, as a Canelo type. Not Canelo type, sorry, a Cotto type. In terms of, I'm going to be a perfect B side for you, Canelo. I'm going to maximize your earning potential. But I'm going to wait and see if they can produce that number with the first pay-per-view. First pay-per-views are always kind of shoddy. It's hard to tell. Gary, you're back. How you doing?
I'm back. If this it switched back off to Ethernet. I mean, Ethernet to Wi-Fi. It doesn't gonna have to reset it like I did last time and hope that fixed it. But
God damn it, Gary.
Hey, I'm gonna have to. AT&T doesn't know what's coming, right? Like we have a policy in my house. Like my wife goes first, right? And she'll be really nice and polite to you. If you give her a hard time, then she puts me on the phone. But we tried first. Like we tried to be nice. And then that didn't work. You gave her a hard time. Now we're going to do this the hard way. You're going to have to deal with me. That's never fun for anyone. And that's what we're going to have to do at AT&T.
Someone taught me a valuable lesson in life. You start all beefs with love.
Yeah.
It's true. It's true. I'm not going to explain it. For those that know, they know. PSK, hard restart needed, aka restart PC and router. Yeah, but I mean, I'll be honest, PSK, you're on a PC, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why. Let's be honest about it, people. Like you're on a laptop too, not a desktop, not like a tower, right? Not PC.
No, it's a laptop. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why.
But so it switches like that's trash.
Fu had the same issue with his PC laptop that it would switch from Ethernet to Wi-Fi. There must be a setting Because for iPhones they had this, and you can turn off on your iPhone. I think it's like, I forget the term. It's like Wi-Fi searching or something like that, Wi-Fi helper or something like that. It turns on your data for your phone. That's what it would do. Turn on your data without letting you know if your Wi-Fi connection wasn't perfect. Similar to a computer or PC, that they decide to switch between Wi-Fi or Ethernet, determining on whether the connection is in the computer's mind perfect or not.
I'll call AT&T if they can't fix it. Then I'll call Dell.
I'll call Dell.
If they can't fix it,
I'll call them motherfuckers. Write a strongly worded letter. They're gonna hear from me.
You know where Michael Dell is from?
Texas.
You know where he started his Dell Computers,
dude,
in his dorm.
I don't know about Michael Dell, but so many of like those, like the Google boom, so to speak, of the 90s, right? So many of those people are fucking wackos.
Like what's his name that ran for president as libertarian? The
Pat McAfee.
McAfee.
Yeah, dude.
He's killing prostitutes and living in compounds and Belize or whatever. Like,
dude, McAfee is a fucking. Oh, digressing. And also digressing. Totally off topic, guys. After the show, join me as I watch DMX and Snoop Dogg battle. I'll be on the versus IG. I'll be drinking my Henny. I'm gonna be having a great time because that's really all that matters today. I know we had to do a show apparently, but like all I've been thinking about is this DMX Snoop Dogg battle. I'll be honest, Gary. I know maybe it's a little off tangent and maybe the listeners don't care, but I care. That battle is insane. DMX could win it. I'll say that. Not that he will. I know that might be blasphemous coming from a Long Beach person to say that DMX could beat Snoop Dogg, but it's possible.
Look, DMX is the better rapper, though, but isn't it just like a popularity contest at this point, right? Like, Snoop's got more fans at this point, really at any point, than DMX does, so Snoop's going to win.
But here's the thing. I'll be honest. Snoop's popular hits are his worst songs. Like Drop It Like It's Hot, Peaches and Cream, like all of those like really big poppy records.
Yeah, that's the way it usually is because pop music sucks. Yeah.
Beautiful with Pharrell. Like, I love Pharrell. Like, love Neptunes. You know, they're fucking legends. Love Snoop, legend, but I hate that song. I hate that fucking song. That song came on every mall, convenience store, elevator, radio station when that song came out. Oh my God. Oh, I hate it.
It's like R. Kelly. What's R. Kelly's worst song? Ignition. Right? Like, R. Kelly's got so many good songs. But then, like, the pop song that everyone plays at the college bar is, like, his most famous song. It's like, that's his worst song.
I was about to defend Ignition, but then, like, it's R. Kelly. I'm not going to defend R.
Ignition, like, it's a song that'll start a party, but it's not like, it's like, R. Kelly is so good. Like, his voice is amazing. Like, that's a pop song.
Let's be honest. At that era, Pony was the best R&B song of all time. Okay, and that's just facts. Okay,
it starts the party like no other. It's like Ignition, Pony, the Thong song, like that era.
Oh man, great era.
Yeah,
fantastic. Dwayne B saying Snoop has more hits. No, he does. He really does.
and the Thong song is right because Cisco's saying with such passion about women's underwear.
As you should. Okay. Come on, people. Scott Brown saying the Eagles beat both. Get the fuck out of here, Scott. I will fight you. I've seen the Eagles live like half a dozen times too, and even I would be like, "Nah, come on, let's tone down right there." But I've seen a lot.
I like the Eagles. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, in a theoretical music battle, I'm picking both the DMX and Snoop over the Eagles.
I mean, it's like saying who would win, the Lakers or the Yankees. Well, what sport are we playing? Like,
it doesn't matter. Who's winning? You don't say the Lakers, man. We're fighting. Just saying. Fuck the Yankees. Moving on. Brief mention that the Gervonta Davis Leo Santa Cruz fight will be both for the WBA regular lightweight title, which is held by Davis, and for the WBA super WBA super featherweight title held by Santa Cruz. I don't care to explain why that's bullshit. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Right? Scott Brown saying LOL half a dozen times. Well, I've seen a lot of concerts. I was a festival guy. Like I was big into like indie festivals and rock festivals and reggae festivals. Like that was my jam for a long period of time. Don't hate, Scott.
I used to see the Allman Brothers at the Beacon Theater when I lived in New York. They play like 20 times over a month span.
Yeah, they do play all the time.
The Freaking at the Beacon. I used to go at least once or twice. Because they're top 2 greatest rock bands of all time. Definitely greatest American rock bands of all time with them and Guns N' Roses.
That's a Rambling Man, right?
Again, probably their worst song. Yeah,
Yeah, but that's the song I think of.
Yeah, that's what you associate with them because that was the commercially viable song. Yeah.
Folk style rock is the worst rock. Period. Maybe that's a hot take.
It's Southern rock. Okay.
Folk
rock. I don't like the way that. I don't like that. I don't like that verbiage. It's Southern rock.
I don't like that verbiage. No, would you say that like John Fogerty and like Leonard Skinner, like they're folk rock or Southern rock?
I say Southern rock. Like, yeah, you could say folk rock. You're probably not wrong. I say Southern rock.
I would say Southern rock. Allman Brothers, I would not say are Southern rock. They're folk rock. I will die on that hill. Just saying, Gary.
Okay, go listen to Whipping Post and tell me that that's not a Southern rock because you're saying like that's Rambling Man. Okay.
Gary's getting triggered. I love it. So good. Oh man. Moving on. What do we have here? Briefly, we'll say this. Gary, I know you care about this. Mario Barrios is in the news. Dana Roman and Mario Barrios, not fighting each other, obviously, will be on the Charlos undercard. It was supposed to be Dana Roman versus Emmanuel Rodriguez. That fight has been canceled. I forget for what reason why it was canceled. Was due to just contract issues? I forget why. But, excuse me, Dana Roman, Mario Barrios on the undercard of the Charlos pay-per-view. Gary, any other thoughts on these Showtime events?
No, we got Barrios. I'm disappointed about that Manuel Rodriguez fight. I really want to see him fight somebody good again. I guess he was going up to 122 to fight Roman from 118, which I don't know why you would do. Just stay at 118 and try to get a Rigo fight, right? Because that should be makeable. Unless you can't make 118 anymore.
Damn, Gary. It's okay, Gary. Hello, darkness, my old friend. Oh, Gary's back a little bit. I see him. Gary, just restart your computer, man. I don't know if you can hear me. It's all right. Moving on. Let's get to this Canelo bullshit here. Canelo Triple G agreed to a third fight months ago, writes Mike Coppinger. Per sources, Alvarez will earn $45 million. Triple G will earn $30 million. Rematch generated over $27 million at the gate. So the trilogy bout won't happen without fans. We could be looking at May 2021. All the details. And there's a long article about how it was originally Cal Smith that DAZN wanted. Now it's Triple G again. I'll be largely honest when it comes to this issue or this topic. I don't care about this news anymore. Like the news of a Canelo Triple G trilogy fight and a deal being somewhat done, like they cried wolf on that 5 times already, it feels like, this year alone, right? Like we've heard, oh, we have a deal done. Oh, a preliminary deal is done. Financials are agreed to. We've heard that several times now, and the fight has been honestly nowhere near close. I am leaning towards Mike Coppinger just being fed disinformation from the promotion and the network because he's a fucking hack. That's what I think. Like, if I really have to be honest about my opinion about this story, is that it is a bullshit story that is not going to go anywhere at any time soon. Why? Because it's all it is Golden Boy and DAZN, probably in tandem, trying to force Canelo's hand publicly. You know, say that, oh, we've agreed to this fight, these fights. Meanwhile, Canelo's sitting back in Mexico saying, I'm not doing shit. Pay me my fucking money. Pay me my money. Okay. And until we have that, when we get that news of DAZN, Golden Boy has stopped asking for Canelo to take a pay cut, then we can get a trilogy fight. Then we can get a Billy Joe Saunders fight. Then we can get a Callum Smith fight. Until then, all of this is bullshit. All of this is Mike Compton and fed bullshit from Golden Boy and DAZN, and it's quite apparent that's what it is right now. Gary is back. Gary.
All right, that should be fixed. I'll hard reset the router and everything, but it's got something to do with whenever I go to share the stories is when that happens. So I'm gonna quit screen sharing until I get this figured out. It was 3 for 3. I did a science experiment, and my results were confirmed each time I click share screen. Our results are repeatable.
Ron Canelo Triple G3 deal, and I'm saying that it's basically just Mike Carpenter being a hack and being fed bullshit by Golden Boy and DAZN, because this is nowhere near close. All these fights we're hearing about aren't anywhere near being close, in my opinion, and I'm getting tired of the disinformation being put out here by a journalist.
I mean, like, it could be an agreement in terms like, hey, what were the dollar amounts? They were huge, right? Like, they said, hey, if I offered you this, would you fight Triple G? Sure. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not an agreement in terms. Like, there's no paperwork signed or anything, right? Like, I just said, yeah, I would do that, you know?
We've heard this like 4 or 5 times, though, Gary, haven't we? Like, we've heard Canelo Triple G3 deal a lot. And each time it goes nowhere really fucking fast. I think that's a sign that it's disinformation being put out there by the network or the promoter.
If you had your druthers, right? And not which one's a bigger fight. We know which one's a bigger fight. But just what would you rather see? The Callum Smith fight or a third Triple G fight?
Oh, Callum Smith.
Me too.
That's a really intriguing fight.
Yeah.
The idea of Canelo at 168 instantly adds a lot of value to that top 5 of that division, or top 4-ish, so to speak, because those top 4 or 5 guys are really fucking good, but have zero star power. Zero star power. So it's, I think, hard for a lot of casuals to get up for those matchups for those guys sometimes. But you add Canelo in the mix of Caleb Plant, Dave Benavidez, Callum Smith, Billy Joe Saunders. Holy shit, that's a fantastic top 5 right there.
You don't think Benavidez has any star power? I know he doesn't right now, but he's still only like 22.
Right
now he doesn't. I get right now he doesn't, but I feel like
if you talk about potential,
yeah,
maybe. I don't get that. I don't get star power potential with David Benavidez at all. That's just me. Like when we talk about like some guys, we just get it. Some guys just don't. I don't get it with him. I think he's a fun fighter. I think he's a cool guy when it comes to talking shit, but I don't see star. I see a guy that is a boxing hardcore darling in a way. Like I see a guy that's going to have a good career. He's going to have some losses here and there, put on great fights, but be an entertaining guy. Like
when I say a star, I mean like a star, like a Keith Thurman star. Like no, he could never reach that level. Okay.
Did you ever see Benavidez doing $5 million plus on Fox? Like if Benavidez killed Plant right now on Fox, like
not now, right? He would need the right. If Plant became a star and they were both like multiple belts, long reigning champ, and they fought 3 years from now, and they both kind of built up this base, maybe. But I mean that's too much projecting into the future. I don't know. The answer to that's no. They wouldn't do $5 million on free TV. No.
If we're being honest, a lot of these boxing champions and headliners do not do enough mainstream media. Like they just do not do enough media obligations and enough media circuits, tours, whatever you want to call it. Like when's the last time you saw a boxer on late night show?
Pacquiao, Mayweather and Pacquiao,
And even then, like I can't remember the last time Mayweather was on late night.
The last time McGregor, the last time he fought.
Was he really on a late night show?
He was on Kimmel.
Mayweather was on Kimmel?
Mm-hmm. Really? Yeah.
I don't know. See this. Anyways, but I mean, again, like that's to me, that's the barometer of star. Like if we're talking about like true star, are you doing those massive media tours and circuits? Like, are you doing the car washes at ESPN?
Like why doesn't ABC have Shakur Stevenson on their late night shows? Right? Like He's a good-looking guy, good person. Have him clean his image a little bit in case that case ever goes to court or whatever. Like, make him look better, you know. And he's a star. He's got the personality. He's got the smile. He's a good talker. Like, let him be on TV. You know, like, make him a household name.
Well, sort of speaking on this a little bit, did you see that Budweiser is back into the boxing industry for the first time since the whole Pacquiao, I think it was his homophobic statement.
Is that what took him out?
I want to say so.
Okay.
I think it had to do with Pacquiao. I want to say if it had to do with Pacquiao, it was probably because of his homophobic statements. I know he lost the Nike sponsorships, right?
Yeah, that was his own sponsorship. Yeah. I mean, Nike didn't leave. It's just like Budweiser can do whatever they want, but like Budweiser's a sponsor for every other sport where they have people who say ridiculous, awful things. You know what I'm saying? It's like that seems like a weird reason to pull out of the sport entirely because one guy said something.
It's boxing, and we're the red light district, and you're comparing it to mainstream sports that have massive PR teams.
That's true. That's true.
Like, think about boxing PR reps for promoters. Like, God bless them. They try. But what is it saying? So Budweiser, they're sponsoring Ryan Garcia. Did you see that?
No, I didn't see that. But that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
So, like, we're talking about like stars. Like, Ryan Garcia is probably the next star. Like, if we're really talking about like who's going to be the next big pay-per-view draw of boxing, it's probably Ryan Garcia, unless he loses a bunch, right? Then he's not going to be a pay-per-view star. I don't see Haney having that yet. I think Haney, the industry is pushing a lot of buttons for Haney right now. I've noticed it. I haven't seen it translate to superstardom or stardom yet, and then that's partly due to now him being on his own. I would say that as well.
So, like, I think Garcia would have like the De La Hoya effect, where the other guys, Mosley, Trinidad, they became stars because so many people watched them fighting.
So, like, if a Haney versus Ryan Garcia happened,
and it was a great fight, Haney is now a star, right?
Okay. No, I see it. I 100% agree with you on that. I think that's probably what's going to happen. That's your best bet for some of these young guys, like a Shakur Stevenson or Devin Haney or Teofimo Lopez, for them to actually be stars, is to fight Ryan Garcia. Not Loma, not Burchelt, not Josh Warrington or Gary Russell Jr. Like, all these really great fighters that are obviously exponentially better than all these prospects right now, they do not make any of these fighters stars right now.
And that's what Mayweather do, right? We're talking about why was Mayweather a star? Because he could have fought Paul Williams, which would have been a better fight. But it's like, well, Ricky Hatton makes me a lot more money, and it's an easy fight, so I'm going to fight Hatton. Too bad, Paul Williams. That's too bad. You might be able to beat me. So I'm just going to fight Hatton, who I can destroy for more money, right? And that's how you become a star. Now, like these other guys, like Haney wants to beat Teofimo. He probably thinks he can, and he wants that fight because it's, he probably wants to beat Loma, right? I can beat Loma, and Loma's the best guy in the division. Yeah, but beating him doesn't do more for you than beating Ryan Garcia, as weird as that sounds. Beating Ryan Garcia is going to be a bigger spectacle.
I don't know if this happened because Scott Brown is saying PBC should be trying to get Charlos on late night. I do agree with that. But, I mean, obviously PBC is geared towards more of the African-American market because they have a lot of African-American fighters and champions. Like, there's plenty of African-American outlets that they can be going on a lot more on. Like, that's just a reality. I know this show is not in sort of existence anymore, but like Wild and Out would have been a great platform for some of these boxers to be on. Nick Cannon's show. That would have been massive for them. And plus, I think it's a Viacom-owned property. So, like, there was a correlation between Showtime-PBC and Viacom, which owns Showtime. Like, there was a direct correlation between that. I've mentioned, Breakfast Club, Sway in the Morning, certain radio stations and shows.
I feel like Sway has boxes on all the time. Like, he's had Crawford on. Like, I feel like Sway has, yeah.
There are some that go on. Like, Crawford has tried to do it. Like, there are some that try to do this route. And not all of them are successful, right? But can we all agree that the Charlos have more natural star power than Crawford?
Yeah. And Spence went on the Breakfast Club.
Spence also has a lot more natural star power than Crawford.
And the Charlos have the much more natural, and I have much more natural star power than Spence.
Yeah.
So,
like, imagine the Charlos on Breakfast Club with Charlamagne the God.
They'd be having fun. Yeah.
It'd be great. It'd be a great time. Like, that's something that they should be going down. And those are steps before you even get to late night, because you can't just jump into late night. Like, that's just a reality to a degree. Like, you have to work your way up the media ladder in terms of publicity. Arthur saying Wilder was on Wilder out. Yes, he was. I remember that now. Yes, he was. Wilder, look at this. Look at his star power right now. You know, he is somebody that they have pushed in a lot of mainstream media outlets. I think he did like a Good Morning America interview once as well. Like, again, like, you're going to have to think outside the box to make someone a star. And most of the time, unfortunately, it's not about beating the best guy. Like, that matters for us. It doesn't matter to casuals. Doesn't matter to mainstream corporations. It just does not matter. Sorry. Your image, your brand, your salesmanship, that matters more than anything in terms of star power. Just the reality. Yes, do wins matter in some degree? Absolutely. But it matters who you beat, like Gary said. Like, if you beat other stars, that helps you for sure. Beating non-stars, regardless of how talented they are, doesn't.
Helps your legacy amongst hardcores, right? But it's not going to,
It's not going to help your pockets. Like, that's just a reality. Hassan, I think a little bit being pessimistic, but I do agree with you somewhat, saying they get him on them shows and they're cornballs. I do think that is somewhat due to lack of media training for a lot of these guys. I think most fighters that come up reach, especially if they reach the championship level, do so without any formal media training, any formal PR work. You know, I bet most of these people do not have personal publicists. Right? Like, these are things that help you drastically in terms of handling interviews, mainstream interviews, and conducting yourself, learning how to conduct yourself. So I definitely agree with you, Hassan, that a lot of these interviews have been a little bit rough at times, but some of them haven't been. Like, I thought Wilder's have been predominantly very good. I thought Tyson Fury's on Joe Rogan, even though I don't like Joe Rogan, I don't like Tyson Fury. That was a good fucking interview. Like,
it really was.
Just, like, I don't like either guy at all, but that was a good interview. It can work, and I think it just needs, like, people just need time and they need almost like training. Similar to like training your boxing ability. You need to train your vocal abilities. You need to train yourself on the mic. Like, I've been doing this shit for 5 years now, Gary. I still think I'm trash. I still end the show thinking I fucked up here, I fucked up here, I fucked up here, I messed up here. This is how I need to work on it. Every fucking show I end that way. 5 years into it. I've been doing almost a daily show for 5 fucking years. I've done thousands of podcasts. I still have this issue. I still struggle. I still work on it.
I just come on and give you perfectly executed boxing analysis, and that's just what I do.
Oh my God, Gary. But yeah, I mean, so I don't mind some of these guys that are like pushed into the mainstream media outlets being a little bit awkward or shy or, as you said, cornball. But give them time, they will get better. And on top of that, some people may not be best suited for it, like Crawford, while others, like the Charlos, may be suited for it. So it's a little bit of a trial and error in terms of promotional efforts, right? Like, some guys you should push all the effort to push them on these outlets because it is going to maximize your profits. Some, it's not going to do anything because, like, it's Crawford and he's not going to get on the mic and say anything great.
If you just make the guy a star, people will just become enamored with him. Like, Tiger Woods was the biggest star in the world. He was awful in interviews. Like, the only thing you could talk about was golf. It was like Tony Gwynn at hitting. It's like, what do you think about the weather? Well, here's my shot on 16. It's like, it's the only thing you can talk about, right? Like, but if you just make the guy a big enough star, people will just be enamored by him. So just work on making Terrence Crawford a star. And then if he's boring, people will be like, wow, it's Terrence Crawford, like, greatest fight as ever. Just make him a star.
I would say that mainstream sports, it's so much easier to do that, especially team sports, because you have a built-in fan base, you have built-in excuses if you're not performing that great. Like, there's a lot of things to help you out in that, sphere. Like not Dennis Rodman, sorry, Scottie Pippen, for example, not the greatest person on the mic, not the greatest interview,
no.
But you put him up there next to Dennis Rodman and even Michael Jordan. It doesn't matter. They're now a unit. They're now a team, and they're now an iconic, trio, right? It didn't matter that one of them was boring as shit. It didn't matter. You don't really have that in combat sports. The way you would do that is to beat stars, right? Is that, like, you have to fall back to that. Like, if you're Crawford, and I think he's always the person we're going to talk about when it comes to this example, unfortunately, he would have to beat Spence, Pacquiao, and then maybe add in like a Canelo fight, right? Like he would have to like fight those 3 guys and beat those 3 guys to become a star in the classical sense, right?
Yeah.
That's hard to do in combat sports. It really is. Like Tiger Woods did it by just beating everyone forever, and that's hard because that's an individual sport. Maybe Tiger Woods is a very good example for combat sports because there are individual sports in that degree. But again, golf is far more of a mainstream sport than boxing, I would say.
Sure. I mean, and mainstream, like the people with the money like golf way more than like boxing, right? Like
I like how you define that. The people with the money love golf. The people with money kind of go, oh, boxing.
Yeah, maybe they'll watch the Mayweather pay-per-view, right? But they're not going to sit there, like Tom Brady was ringside at Mayweather Pacquiao, and Mitt Romney was sitting at Pacquiao Marquez fight. But they're not going to sit and watch boxing every weekend. Like I don't know how anyone watches golf, right? Like I just don't understand how people watch golf. I don't understand that.
It's the worst sport.
It's the worst. It's the worst. Although I got to see lacrosse. That might rival it.
Lacrosse isn't too bad in terms of entertainment. Like I was like watching high school lacrosse games, after school. They weren't too bad. I was really high during all of them, but I mean that was beside the point. Speaking of Devin Haney, though, because we were talking about him, he did go on Twitter and say, "In beginning negotiations for a fight with Gamboa, what do you guys think?" Side eye emoji, or like the and then the like the blowing the steam out your nose emoji. Angry. I don't know. I should know this more than you. Obviously, that's sad. And it's a picture of him as a little kid with Gamboa. This is trolling, right?
I don't think so.
Oh my god, why not?
What's I like?
I mean, we saw Gervonta Davis get dragged to this day for fighting Gamboa and for looking the way he did against Gamboa.
But that's what I'm saying.
Why on God's green earth would you be going after that guy who gave Gervonta Davis not only a ton of shit in the fight, but people gave him shit for the fight? It just makes no sense to me. Like if I'm his promoter and manager, I'm steering clear of Gamboa. That's just a lose-lose fight in a lot of ways. That makes no sense.
Let me address that because it's a good question. Because on one leg, Gamboa nearly went the distance and had some moments with Tank Davis. If Devin Haney goes in there and blows him out on 2 legs, well, I had a negotiating chip. Look what I just did to this guy on 2 legs.
No one's saying that. He had Achilles surgery. That motherfucker is never going to be back on 2 legs again.
No, never. That's true. But, I mean, I don't think the average sports fan, the average boxing fan knows that. He had the same surgery Kevin Durant had at 30 years old. He had it at 39. It's like...
Gary.
Yeah.
The average sports fan is not watching Haney Gamboa on fucking DAZN.
Okay, I mean, the average boxing fan...
the hardcore boxing fan absolutely knows what happened to Gamboa.
That's true.
And hate this matchup. Look at all the replies. When you see them, I'm they're bad. And
Matt,
there's people that usually like are really pro fighter here going, no man, this ain't it.
I think because people generally like Gamboa, right? Like Gamboa was somebody hard cards like them, right? They liked watching them fight. No matter what you thought of them, you like watching Gamboa fight. I think this was done just to stick their foot in the water, see what the reaction was, right? Like kind of like when you ask the head cheerleader out on a date, like, is she gonna laugh at me or is she gonna entertain this, right? Like, I think it was like kind of just gauging the water, just taking the temperature of the situation. I don't think there's been serious negotiations. I think it was like a test. Like, okay, let's squash that. Like when I was in college in New York, Chris Rock went to this comedy club called the Comedy Cellar, the Comedy Basement, something like that. And he just came out and tested new material. And if it didn't work, he went through it. And then when he had his next set, like I knew some material, those worked well, right? Like I think this is like that. No, I didn't go over well. Okay, ditch Gamboa. But
let's hope he ditched Gamboa. Because it's boxing. Like I can see all of us going, no, fuck this fight. And then we get a poster from Matchroom and Eddie going, the fight's made, guys. Matchroom USA back with the big card.
And the other thing I would say is, look, Gamboa would be the best name on his resume, right or wrong? He would be.
But not in reality, though. Like,
Kind of in reality.
No, in terms of name value, yes. But the dude's coming off of a huge layoff and Achilles surgery. He tore his Achilles tendon. No, and plus, how old is he? 40?
39 and 40. I mean, he was 39 when he fought Tank, so he'll be 40 by the time they would
He's
fight.
been 39 for a decade. He's Cuban. Like, no.
He's 52.
No one wants this fight. No one wanted Tank Davis versus Gamboa. It just makes no sense. God, I hate it. The only bail I will give Haney is that, in theory, the 4 guys I would want him to fight are tied up. Right? Like Teofimo Lopez and Loma, they're still negotiating a fight. We had Teofimo Lopez outside MSG today saying, "Fight me, Loma." And Loma's like, "I'll fight you anywhere, bitch." And it was just hilarious. And then obviously we have Ryan Garcia, Luke Campbell, which seems to be happening. That's not official, but it seems to be happening. If you're Haney, you are left with few options at 135. That is a reality.
When is he looking to fight? When is Haney looking to fight? So let's say October. Tanahara, let's do it. Right? Because Tanahara fights in July. If we gave him 3 months, 12, 14 weeks in between fights. Right? Give him 3+ months. Tanahara, let's do it.
I'm good. There's no one better? There's no one better? Hold on. I'm going to
Tanahara, no, there's no one better than Tanahara.
Ortiz? No, he's not better.
Well, not at 135.
Yeah, but all time.
All time.
All time. Who's the best?
Who will win a world title first? Virgil Ortiz or Hector Tanahara?
Ortiz is the safer bet, obviously, because Tanahara is never winning.
That's way off. They're both winning. And I say Tanahara gets one first just because those belts will become vacant, right? Like he'll get a chance at a vacant belt, right? Because if Loma wins them, he'll leave it. If Tio wins them, he'll leave them, right? So the belts will become available quicker.
No, there's no way I think Loma leaves this division right now and vacates any belt right now. Why would he?
Because he says he wants to go back down to 130.
That's the stupidest thing he could do right now. All the big money is at 135 for him.
Okay.
Like, no, I mean, honestly, think about it. Like, if you're Loma, why wouldn't you feast on these prospects right now? I would. They're all bigger money fights than Burchell.
Can Bob make all of them? Because he can make a Valdez fight. He can make a Burchell fight. He can make a Shakur Stevenson fight. Like those, the other fights might be bigger fights, but these are easily makeable.
Shakur
Stevenson would be a great fight. Like Shakur Stevenson versus Loma.
Okay, who's better? Who's a better fight for Devin Haney? Gamboa or Jorge Linares?
Jorge Linares.
Who's a better fight for him? Gamboa or Javier Fortuna?
Oh, Fortuna. But don't fight Fortuna. That's like Lipinets. Don't fight him. That's too tough of a fight.
Who's a better fight? Comey or Gamboa?
Comey, he got blown up, but Comey is still a world-class fighter.
This might be where we have a little bit of a debate here. Who's a better fight for him? Lee Selby or Gamboa?
Selby.
Wow, okay. Ricky Burns or Gamboa?
That's
a toss-up? Okay.
Yeah, Burns is just as shot as Gamboa is.
That's probably where we get at then. I will add this. George Kambosos Jr. I like him a lot.
Yeah.
I like him a lot. I can take a fight with him and Haney. And plus 2 good prospects fighting each other. All those guys I would take over Gamboa. There you go, Gary.
Okay, I'm not disagreeing with you, but don't put him in with Fortuna. That's a scrap that you just don't want. Just don't do that.
That's the fight I do want.
No, you want it, I want it. But like, if I'm Devin Haney's, if I'm at Matchroom, no.
I think
let's find a different fighter than him.
I think every prospect, and I'm sorry, Haney, that I keep calling you a prospect, even though you have a belt. So I'm going to call Shakur Stevenson a prospect till you beat someone of note. All prospects need to fight a Fortuna-like guy on the way up.
Fortuna-like, but not Fortuna. Like,
no.
Provodnikov-like, but not him. Like, someone at that level.
Okay, first off, I wouldn't compare Provodnikov to Fortuna at all. I don't think those guys are equal.
Well, why not?
Provodnikov's a far more credentialed and accomplished fighter than Fortuna.
Slightly more. He lost to Chris Algieri.
So
he's got some wins, but I mean, most of his big fights. No, did he? Lucas Matisse, he beat Matisse or lost to Matisse?
He lost to Matisse.
So I mean, most of his big fights he lost.
Yeah, but
right?
they're all grossly better fighters than people Fortuna's lost to.
Okay, Sergey Lipinets, right? Is that a fair comparison to?
Yeah, I mean that Lipinets was always compared to Provodnikov, but yeah, I think that's a fair comparison.
Okay, like don't fight him either. Like fight somebody like him. Fight
Yeah, when you get knocked out by Jason Sosa, bro, like you can't be compared to. I'm sorry. We forgot about that shit, but I'm just gonna bring that up right now. If you get knocked out by Jason fucking Sosa,
yeah, how did that happen?
In China.
I don't understand how that happened.
That was 4 years ago, man. How did Zhu Shiming must have been on this card, right?
Zhu Shiming, yeah.
No, he wasn't. What?
Why was it on China then?
Shushan.
Shushan? Okay.
But even he wasn't a guy yet then.
Was this on HBO?
No.
I remember some cards from China on HBO.
No, this was
okay.
June 24th, 2016. Fortuna versus Jason Sosa in Beijing, China. The only media it gives is the Chinese television.
All right.
Did we not see this one?
I can't remember, but I know that Jason Sosa knocked him out. I know that. I don't remember seeing the fight because I don't really remember anything anymore. But I know, like Sosa, what happened? Sosa knocked Fortuna out. I don't remember the fight. It's possible we never saw it.
Yeah, I remember like the fight like almost right after with Omar Douglas with Fortuna. That was a fantastic fight. But I don't remember the Jason Sosa fight that much. But anyways, he got knocked out by him. So sorry. Scott Brown saying, is Tevin Farmer still available? Different division. I wouldn't want Farmer to move up. And I do think that Farmer and Joseph Diaz are fighting in rematch. Right? Didn't Farmer activate his rematch clause?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that fight's happening next.
And Tevin's going to win that fight, by the way.
Really?
I think so. He's just going to fight a completely different fight. Like, he's not going to stand in a phone booth with a bully. Like, look, he just fought the completely wrong fight that night. And JoJo was, like I said, he was Mamba mentality. He was not going to be denied that night. I think if they do it again, right, like, JoJo doesn't have the greatest night of his life, and Tevin fights a different fight and wins the decision.
I don't think that was just the greatest night of Joseph Diaz's life. I think that's just Joseph Diaz doing Joseph Diaz-like work. And Tevin Farmer's grossly overrated.
You think Tevin's going to stand in with him again?
Yes, because I don't think his defensive movement is that.
If he fights the same way, he'll lose again. I agree with that, but I think he'll fight 180-degree different fight.
I think he can't do that, is my opinion. Not that he won't, is that he can't.
Is that JoJo won't allow? That JoJo's pressure?
No. I don't think Farmer is that defensively gifted that people
okay.
Say. I think Farmer is good. Obviously, he has a lot of skill, but the idea that he is like
Pernell Whitaker,
Whitaker, like no, Pedraza beat him the fuck up. Like no, we're not doing this, people. Okay,
but that loss doesn't look that bad in retrospect. Like losing to Pedraza, like it's not that big a deal.
It's an indicator of something. Not that you're bad, but that you're not great.
Okay, yeah.
Right? Like, not everyone has to be a great fighter.
Yeah, like Tevin's story was great. Like he had, what was he, like 7-4 or 7-5 at one point, something like that. Like, and then he became a world champ. It's a great story. But you're right, like he's not the best guy in the division. He's not.
You lose 5 times, like you don't have great defense. Like, I'm like sorry, like, but that's how it kind of works. Like Chris Colbert has like exponentially better defense than Tevin Farmer. Like Chris Colbert's ability to control the action and the range leads him to having great defense. Tevin Farmer lacks the ability to control the tempo and the action of a fight.
If they fought next, who would win? Colbert versus Tevin. Who would win?
Chris Colbert, hands down. Hands fucking down.
He beat up on Corrales, which I thought was a good name. Like Corrales is a good opponent. I'd pick Colbert at this point too, even though Colbert's still really young. I think Colbert does have enough experience with the Corrales fight to win a decision. I don't think it's hands down. I think it's a high-speed chess match that Colbert wins enough rounds.
The only guys I pick against Colbert right now at 130 are probably Burchell and Leo. Because I pick him against Frampton. I pick him against, who else is there? Tevin Farmer, Joseph Diaz. I pick Colbert against those guys. Yeah. But Burchell, Leo, I'll put them in a higher stratosphere. moving on. Top Rank is back with a good fight, though, right? Finally. Well, a fight that they had scheduled before, but fell out. Edela Alvarez versus Joseph Smith, happening August 22nd, MGM Grand at the Bubble. I think you can sort of replace or copy all of our statements when this fight was first announced. It's a great fight, great matchup, makes a lot of sense. I don't really like this. Should be for the vacant title, in my opinion. There shouldn't be another fight in this tournament with was it Vlasov and whoever, right? Like that, and Umar Salamov. Like that just makes no sense to me. Double I, Jamel Herring. Ooh, I'll pick Chris Colbert against Jamel Herring.
You know what? I'm gonna go the other route. Like, because I always picked against Herring. I'm gonna take Herring in that fight.
But that one's close. I have no issue with anyone picking Herring against Chris Colbert, but I would pick Chris Colbert against Jamel Herring. Thank you for the call out, the double I. Sorry, I forgot about him. Edela Alvarez, Joe Smith Jr. back official August 22nd. Gary, your thoughts on Joe Smith Jr. losing again?
I like how I become the resident Joe Smith fanboy. I feel like he's got hardcore fans the way that Randall Bailey did. Like, the guy can crack. He gets awesome knockouts. Like,
Randall Bailey is probably a really good comparison. Like the prime Bailey that like everyone like kind of just liked. Yep.
Yeah. Does he beat Alvarez? I'll pick him. I'm not confident in that pick. I love the fight. It's a great fight. It's a fun fight, you know, for what it is, which is 2 top 10 light heavyweights. I'm into the fight. I think Joe Smith will win the fight, and I don't say that with a ton of confidence.
Yeah. It's one of those fights like I am really intrigued to see Alvarez again because he's one of those guys that's up and down in terms of performance. Joe Smith Jr. I thought had a fantastic performance against Jesse Hart in his last fight. Really curious to see how he looks again. And plus, it's just again a good fight. Like it's a good matchup. Top 5, top 6 guys in the division. Makes a lot of sense, and it should be action packed. Like I can't really imagine it being a bad fight, to be honest. Like some of these fights we talk about, I can imagine them being a little bit tepid or a little bit methodical, where it's not a lot of action and excitement. Joe Smith Jr. Alvarez should be an exciting affair where somebody gets hurt and or finished, in my opinion. I do see that happening.
I'll take Joe Smith by knockout in 8 rounds.
Last topic of the day, then we're going to head over because I got a pregame for the DMX Snoop Dogg battle. Got my Henny ready. I'm excited. But Daniel Kinahan is back. There's a huge article by a friend of the show, Alan Dawson, over at The Insider. Go check it out. Like, post the link. I can't post the link. But it'd be like, I can't. But yes, I can. Hold on. Everyone should go read this article. It's long. It's in depth, just like his last one, but it's really, really fucking good. All about how Daniel Kinahan has used intimidation and his cartel explicitly to run boxing in the past few years. Also, I want to add to this story that per Nick, I get it by way of Nicola Talent over on social media, but I know it's on some newspaper. I can't make it out. It's hard to read. But mentioning that the Gardaí, which is the Irish police, arrested Kinahan's last Irish, and they use the word general, lieutenant, whatever word we're going to use there. And so it looks like the wolves are circling around Kinahan right now. Gary, thoughts on this always evolving news story that is I'm surprised it hasn't gone crazier. I'll be honest. Like I know we're not that show, but like when we hear about what happened with the attorney with the Jeffrey Epstein case, with her son being shot and killed and her husband being shot and wounded by a, for lack of a better term, assassin. I'm really happy that this story has not, in terms of the Kinahan story, gone that way, because there's a lot of very brave media members and journalists over in Ireland and the UK that are reporting on this, and luckily no one that I know of that's reported on this has really been harmed or affected by it, so thank God. But Gary, back to you.
It's like reporting on a mobster or organized crime. It is an organized crime. Like, tread lightly.
It is.
Tread lightly. Like, I get reporters have a job to do, you know. if you value your life, tread lightly. You know what I'm saying? Like, people go missing all the time, right? Like, but no, nothing in the article was like really shocking or surprising if you know.
If we pay attention to it.
Yeah.
No, it's just, I think it's just a really good.
It was, yeah.
It's a really good, expansive article detailing from unnamed sources, because that's how it's going to be when it comes to this story, on Kinahan's explicit behavior and intimidation. And I think that was something that wasn't really explicitly stated yet in an article, was that Kinahan was intimidating boxing people, was using mobster tactics in the boxing industry. People wanted to make him out like he was trying to reform himself and such. No, this was an article to prove or to show people, no, this motherfucker was trying to harass and hurt people in this industry for his monetary gain. Thank God it seems like his organization's crumbling. Thank God.
I don't know how much of that is a front to get him to back off. Like, I don't know. Like, it seems hard to believe that it's just all of a sudden it's falling apart.
Well, it's not all of a sudden. I mean, if you really look into it, this has been a close to a decade-long issue and evolving story. I mean, just look at the Regency Hotel as like a real huge catalyst. That was 5 years ago now, right? Or 4 years ago, 5 years ago now. And Kinahan has been around. I know his father was in control of the gang for a long time. So like they've been under the crosshairs of the Gardaí for some time. It's all about getting evidence and actually coming after them. I would argue that in the last few years, his boxing business is probably one of the catalysts to get this get this response from law enforcement, that they now have certain evidence because he is now acting with, in theory, on board business, on top of board businesses, everything that's functioning right, everything that's running through the legal realms, and is, you can find tax information. Kinahan is now attached to that in some way. I'm assuming, and this is just an assumption here, obviously, that his actual boxing business is a direct causation to the Gardaí coming after him more viciously now, because now they probably have evidence against him. Before, it was maybe harder because he wasn't in legitimate businesses, so to speak. He was only with illegal businesses, so to speak. That would be my assumption.
Yeah. It seems like getting involved in the boxing world, which that openly, like, you're going to get caught eventually, right? Like, someone's going to take notice of it at some point.
Well, not to his credit. That's weird. If you are a cartel, if you're a mobster and you're trying to launder money,
boxing's a good place to do it. Yeah.
Boxing's the easiest one to do it. The easiest. So I get it why he did it, to be honest. And plus, it's boxing. Like, we have a long and storied connection with the mafia, mobsters, cartels, like, directly connected to the sport.
And they end up in jail, right?
They do, largely speaking, yes. But in his mind, maybe you're thinking,
I could do it better. Yeah,
I can be the Don King in a way. Like, I can spin this, and I can be legitimate through this business. That's what he was thinking. Obviously, it didn't work out. You know, he put way too much heat on himself, or I should say, his partners put all the heat on him. Shout out to Bob Arum, because honestly, this was a story in Ireland and the UK for some time, but it became a US story very quickly. So that's where I think you may have the perception of this all of a sudden happened. Because for us in the US, it was the Bob Arum interview that was the big sort of flare for all of us, the red flag of, oh, something's happening here. A lot of people are talking about this name that he's mentioning. Why are they mentioning his name? And that opened up the can of worms. But again, in Ireland and the UK, they knew about this for a long time. Like, a lot of our UK and Irish audience was saying, no, we knew about this for a while. Like, we're kind of surprised it took you guys so long to find out. But then again, like, think about it. We have Mike Coventry as one of our best fucking reporters.
And by best, I'm not gonna. I don't bash people.
I remember a few rants about Dan Raphael. So
Yeah, okay. I guess I do beat up on comic book guy over there.
and whoa, hold on,
Don't disrespect comic book guy.
don't disrespect comic books. You can
No, the comic book guy from The Simpsons is who I was calling him. The comic book.
Okay, I get it now. But no, come on. This show, like, we shit on everyone. Name redacted, you shit on way more than me.
I really don't shit on him. I said, do you think name redacted would know this person? Like, that's like my metric of how hardcore is the guy.
Well, you're asking that too for me to shit on.
No, because you worked with him for 2 years or whatever it was.
Oh, it's so good. Cracks me up. Anyways, guys, any other topics, Gary? Anything that we missed?
We got the fights Friday. Saturday, I mean.
Should we talk about the fights that were happened yesterday? Oscar Valdez. Did you watch it?
Oh, I did. I already forgot about it. That's what I thought of it. He came back. He got the knockout in the last round with like a minute left. But boy, there's that. You know what? Ryan Garcia's win over Velez looks a lot better in retrospect now, right? Because we were like, oh, wow, he gave Ryan Garcia trouble when Garcia was like 18.
Can you imagine the work that Ryan Garcia puts on Oscar Valdez in the gym? Like, I'm spitballing here, but I think Ryan Garcia beats up Oscar Valdez in the gym.
If that gym is so great, why is Valdez regressing? It seems like
because he was never good.
Like he beat Genesis Savannah, right? Like that's a decent fighter. He couldn't beat him today. He was losing rounds to Velez.
Decent. I think you're throwing around the word decent. The only notable fight he's ever had was Scott Quigg.
Quigg, right?
That's it. That is the only one that you can go, yep, that was a good name, good opponent, even though he fought him after Frampton beat him.
And he beat what was the Italian stallion that he beat? Carmine Tomasono on ESPN.
Dude, like again, the only good name he has beat.
You don't give any credit to Cerveza? Genesis?
No. No, Genesis Savannah? No.
All right.
Didn't Gervonta Davis beat him up?
Probably. I don't know. I mean, I don't think he's a great fighter, but he's decent. Like, I mean, he's like Hipster, right? Like, okay. I mean, you should definitely beat him, but he's gonna offer some resistance. And that was a great fight. Do you remember that fight with Cervezas and Savannah? And
by the way, he did not fight Gervonta Davis. I was
okay.
Apologies.
But do you remember the Savannah versus Valdez fight? Like that was a high action fight. That was a really fun fight.
Can you name me one person that Genesis Savannah has fought other than Oscar Valdez? Without looking at box rec right now.
Oh, we're not looking at box rec.
Can you name me one person he's fought? Not beat. One person he's fought.
My memory doesn't work anymore. No, but he's fought on ESPN before, right? So I feel like he's gonna have some names. Does he not? Who did he fight 2-3 fights before? Didn't he get a decent win right before that fight?
Alexander Espinoza in Japan.
That's not the one. That's not what I'm thinking of.
Jose Cabrera in the UAE.
I don't know.
Conception. I mean, these are names that like I don't know. Alexander Munoz. And that's not Luis Conception, that's Rafael Conception.
I don't know. I felt like I'd known that name because I'm all right. No. That was a good fight though.
And Mariaga, no, he did not fight Mariaga. Oh, talking about Oscar Valdez fighting Mariaga, right? Didn't Oscar Valdez fight Mariaga? Double I saying this in the chat. Sorry. Did he fight? Yes, he did fight Mariaga. No, that wouldn't put Mariaga above Scott Quigg. And I don't know Mariaga has a good win either.
Mariaga doesn't have any good ones. He only got good losses. I mean, yeah. Right.
Yes. Like he's only lost to people that we know. Yeah, I think Oscar Valdez is gonna be demolished by Miguel Pichel. I don't think it's even close, to be honest. What else was on the card? Edgar Berlanga. I mean, I don't have any opinions about this guy right now. I don't.
Let's talk about that, right? 14-0, 14 knockouts. Okay. Full credit to him for all those knockouts.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, it's time to start fighting better guys than Eric Moon. Eric Moon is from somewhere in the South, and he'll fight on a lot of these club cards in the South. Like, I know the name.
Mm-hmm.
Come on. Like, you're doing this for him to get first round knockouts at this point, right? Like, it's like you put 50 cripples in front of him, like, knocked them all out in the first round. Like, yes, I understand. But you're giving him guys that he will knock out in the first round. Moon came right at him and then got knocked out in a minute, right? It's like they're not even putting him in with movers or trying to test him or trying to have him grow. They're just trying to have him get first round knockouts at this point. And that's the matchmaking.
No, I agree. I mean, like, I don't have any like negative on him. It's just like I can't form an opinion about you with 60 seconds of action. I just can't. It's impossible for me to do that. And all of his fights have been like a minute and a half. So I cannot form an opinion about you, honestly, until you fight someone of note or you have a long enough fight to where I can see your action and your offense and your defense and how consistent it is. And we just haven't seen that yet. And Isaac Dogby picked up a win against Chris Avalos. I mean, he looked all right, I guess. It's Isaac Dogby. I like him. He's always going to be a fun guy, but he doesn't look any better in my opinion.
Mm-mm.
So I saw a lot of people on social media kind of hyped on Dogby's performance. I didn't understand why. I thought it was just, I don't know. I think that the hype on Dogby was immediately taken away by Navarrete. And it's going to be very hard to get that hype back because his defense isn't there. His jab's not there. And those are things that he needs to actually beat top-level guys going forward again. And he just doesn't have those at this point. Gary, anything else? Oh, I want to briefly mention Jared Enos will be on the Erickson Lubin Terrell Gachet card. Just want to let everyone know that. And also, Clarissa Shields is very upset that she's not on any of these Showtime cards. As she probably rightly should be. Though this was a PBC announcement, I'm not surprised she wasn't part of that announcement. She's not a PBC fighter, but it's all Showtime cards. I would assume she should be on a Showtime card because she's predominantly a Showtime fighter. Hopefully she gets a fight soon, and maybe on one of those cards too. I like that.
And we forgot to do this last show. It slipped my mind, but
no.
Yeah. Rest in peace, rest easy to Trevell Maison. This guy, I was a big fan of. I got to meet him. About the nicest guy you'll ever meet. He was 24, tragically.
25.
25?
25 is my age.
In a car accident. Rest easy, champ. He was such a great guy. I got to talk to him a couple times from Austin. I mean, really, really, really good guy.
Yeah, I was watching some interviews from him the day he passed, man. He was a nice guy. And plus, he was a good fighter. Like, I know we, on this show, made some jokes because Gary all of a sudden randomly went, what do you guys think about black magic? And I thought he meant literally, like, dark black magic. And I was like, okay, what? I didn't think he meant the fighter. But rest in peace, rest in power, Maison. You were a very gifted prospect, and you were a very, very good guy. And it's going to be sad to see you gone. Condolences to his family and loved ones, man. It sucks. You know, and speaking of people passing, I know this is an unboxing one, but it's something that greatly influenced me, influenced, honestly, this channel and how I conduct this channel. Rest in peace to Michael Brooks, who was a journalist and activist in left media. He passed away due to a blood clot this week. And that's has really affected me, to be honest. That was somebody I looked up to in ways that I just cannot describe on this show. And plus, like I've said, a lot of friends have passed lately. It's been a rough few months for me personally. And I know it's been a rough few months for everyone out there. So just sending out love, positive thoughts, prayers, good vibes to everyone that's listening to this show right now. Know that we are in it together, and let's stay together. Solidarity is very key in these moments. And since, you know, we're wrapping the show and just going to give shout outs at this point, shout out to all the moms, everyone out there in Portland right now, because those are some brave motherfuckers right now facing fascist fucking federal police forces. Shout out to all those moms and all those people right now in Portland. Shout out to people in Detroit and Chicago, which we know have been places that are now under those same unmarked federal agents and being taken, abducted. We literally have the Department of Homeland Security going on Fox News saying that we're preemptively arresting people. Great time to live in America, guys. Stay safe out there. Stay smart. Stay woke. Fuck the police. Fuck 12. Hit the like button. Share the show. Find me, Mount Hunter, MCR, all social media platforms. And again, rest in peace to our boy Maison, friend of the show, Black Magic. And again, rest in peace to Michael Brooks. Gary, final thoughts.
Yeah, 2020 is not getting any better. Just turn the books, go to 2021. Find me at all forms social media, 3D Boxing, 3D Boxing blog. Rest easy champ from Texas to the world. Thank you. God bless.
Peace.